Okay, let's dive in. We've got a really interesting source document for you today. It's a summary of part 2 of The Promised Day Has Come by Shoghi Effendi.
That's right.
And our mission really is to explore its central argument, which is pretty striking.
Really is.
It argues that major historical events, late 19th, early 20th century stuff of powerful institutions, both religious and political, the text sees this as a kind of divine justice.
Yeah, divine justice against those who, according to the source, resisted a new spiritual message appearing at that time.
Exactly. So the source jumps right in, making this claim that power was, deliberately taken away.
Systematically stripped is how it puts it, from kings and religious leaders, specifically because, the text argues, they opposed this new revelation.
And this is where it gets, I think, really compelling. It's not just a vague idea.
No, not at all.
The source points to actual historical figures, people like Napoleon III. It suggests his downfall came after he dismissed the message he received.
Right. And Pope Pius IX is another example highlighted. His temporal power, meaning his role as a ruler over the Papal States, that was extinguished. And the source connects that loss directly to this same pattern of opposition.
It's fascinating how it draws these lines. And it doesn't stop in Europe. It looks at Islamic institutions too, right?
Absolutely. It discusses the collapse of major ones through the same lens. It explicitly mentions the abolition of the caliphate in Turkey.
Which was huge, the end of centuries of Sunni political authority.
Precisely. And then in Persia, it talks about the erosion of the Shi'i clerical order's dominance.
And it links these directly.
It does. It links both to what it describes as their persecution of a specific religious group, the Babis and Baha'is, and argues the rise of secularization. There was, in a way, a consequence.
Wow. Okay, so we have monarchs, the papacy, the caliphate, Shi'i clergy. It's broad.
Very broad. And it also includes Christian institutions more generally.
Ah, okay. How so?
Well, beyond the Catholic Church losing the Papal States, it points to the rise of secular government seeing church influence across the board. And it also suggests things like materialism and nationalism were weakening other denominations, like Protestant and Orthodox churches.
So it paints a picture of a widespread decline in traditional religious authority during this period.
Exactly. And what's really striking is how it interprets all these complex historical shifts, things historians usually explain with politics, economics, social factors.
Right, the standard explanations.
The source presents them as fulfillments of prophecies and warnings. Warnings it attributes to Baha'u'lláh himself.
Warnings that were ignored.
That's the claim. It highlights calls for justice, for unity, for adapting to a new age, which, according to the text, these powers rejected. Their fall is framed as the direct result of that rejection.
So, if we step back and look at the bigger picture here, the text isn't just saying these institutions were corrupt or outdated, though it implies that too.
No, the core argument seems to be their failure to adapt, specifically their failure to embrace this new message, emphasizing, global unity and justice.
It contrasts their perceived failures with what it views as the purpose of true religion, promoting unity, promoting justice.
Right. And it argues these old institutions basically failed that test, hence their decline.
Which brings up a really important question for us and for you listening. How do you make sense of this? A text interpreting huge global changes, fallen empires, secularization, weakened churches primarily as divine consequences for resisting one specific spiritual message.
It definitely challenges conventional historical thinking, doesn't it?
Right.
It asks you to consider cause and effect in a very different way.
It suggests history isn't just driven by material forces, but maybe also by how humanity responds to spiritual prompts as the source sees it.
Exactly. It's a spiritual interpretation of history, fundamentally.
So summing this up, this deep dive shows a source presenting this powerful, maybe provocative narrative. The fall of old powers isn't just politics, it's divine accountability.
Clearing the way, in its view, for a new kind of world order. It sees all the turmoil of that age, and perhaps ours too, as a transition. It uses phrases like, the tumult of this age is the precursor of the golden age to come. So there's a future-oriented aspect too.
Right. Despite focusing on decline, it's ultimately looking towards transformation. So here's something for you to think about after this. Take that core idea from the source that institutions decline when they don't adapt to evolving spiritual principles or resist transformative messages.
Yeah, that's central thesis.
How might that idea apply, or maybe how might it not apply when you look at the big institutions facing challenges in our world today? What does this source ultimately suggest is the real engine driving historical change? Worth pondering.